Good afternoon, evening, depending on where you are, I suppose. Welcome to Good Journeys Tarot Sunflowers. This is Rosemary, and today I am here with some special guests to talk about this deck, the Robin Wood Tarot. It's a deck that they have been raving about for a long time, and that I just have never been compelled to buy until I decided, okay, I'll buy it if you have a conversation with me about why you love it. And so they are here with me today. And so I'm going to hop right in and introduce our first guest. Our first guest is Amy from Strength Reverse. Welcome to Good Journeys Tarot.
Finally, it's Robin Wood Day. Woo! I'm so excited.
Right. Well, you were the first person that I ever saw talk about the Robin Wood. Because I think I've been following you since you started your channel and vice versa. I mean, we started at about the same time. And so tell me how you first became interested in the Robin Wood and why you love it.
Well, I'm not sure if it was my very first deck, but it was my very first deck that I went out and intentionally bought because I really wanted to learn the tarot. This was back in probably the mid 90s. And back then, there weren't scads of tarot decks around. You only had a few choices at the witchy shop or the Barnes and Noble maybe. And I just didn't think the Rider-Waite was very pretty. And I would look at it and go, blah, all the orange and yellow, and it just wasn't pretty to me. And so I wanted something that looked similar, that was really pretty. And so that's the Robin Wood. It's very, I would say weightish, right? But there are some, cards, of course, that are very different. But I like the bright colors, and it just really, really spoke to me. And now I stick with it because it's, to me, it's my normal. It's like the one that whenever I try to, picture a card in a certain deck, I start with the Robin Wood and then kind of go through and try to remember that card in other decks. But it's not necessarily the Rider-Waite that comes to my mind when I think of a card. It's usually the Robin Wood version of the card. And so it's what I've studied with the most, and it's just the images that I'm used to seeing, and it's like an old friend, and it's, fluffy and smooth, and it's just worn in, and it's my grand dame, as Jason says at Tarot by the Pines. It's my true love.
All right. So I'm going to pop you off for a second, introduce our next guest. Our next guest is Tarot Stash, aka Gerald. Welcome.
Hello. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. Anytime. It's getting to be a frequent occurrence, isn't it?
I'm okay with this, Rosemary. I and I think the interwebs is because I'll just keep promoting the heck out of you. So
all right. Well, I appreciate it. So
and by the way, I'm thrilled to be here with you and Amy because I also have watched Amy for a long time. So,
well, I'm glad that you're here. I always enjoy chatting with you. So tell me how you first became aware of the Robin Wood and why you love it.
I first became aware of the Robin Wood probably about 20 some odd years ago. I have friends who were in a coven, and the Lady Julie, the high priestess of that coven, Robin Wood was her high priestess. So you're looking at the dogs. I was just like,
yes.
I was
they're
okay.
wandering around. In a minute they'll lay down and I'll ignore them.
Okay. Well, but so that's how I became introduced to the Robin Wood Tarot, because Lady Julie's high priestess created it, and they would use it in their workings. And then everybody knows my story about the Robin Wood. I got a copy of the Robin Wood, and from Robin Wood directly.
Wow.
And I also bought this book. And look, Robin Wood signed it to me. And so my Robin Wood is a combination of my energy and my two of my friends' energies. So we worked with it for a full lunar cycle, read this book. It was I am similar to Amy. When I see a card that I am not familiar with in a deck, or I am looking at a deck, the Robin Wood are the images that come to my mind. And so I connect to it at a deep level because it was my study deck. And at that time, I was really trying to soak up a lot of information.
Okay.
So,
All right, well, let's bring Amy back on and we'll all chat together. Why don't we check out who is with us today? I know that we have Maria, Lady Knight of Avalon. Aspasia Rising is here.
yes, that is Beth.
And Hudson Valley Tarot is here. And Artists and Oracles, Donna.
Yes, Donna. Hi,
Glad
Donna.
to have everyone here with us today. And in case you haven't noticed, my incense is going really wild with my fan being on. So I keep checking that out. So to everyone who is here with us today, happy Pride Month. I don't know if you can see it, but there is little Death's flower right there on my hat.
Nice.
It's actually the one from Spacious Tarot, their pen, which is the trans flag as a flower.
Nice.
And over here, you'll see I have my rainbow kitties.
Very nice.
And the lemniscate. So anyway, I thought I would wear my Ren Affair apparel for today because it just seemed appropriate looking at the Robin Wood. And so this is a deck that I looked at.
Rosemary, you should have told us. I would have pulled out my hat from my Halloween box and, been done up more instead of wearing my summer clothes.
You still have the welcome strength reversed.
Thank you. I just noticed it as soon
okay.
as
I'm that guy. I am totally that guy.
No problem. Yeah, no, I often forget to do things like that. So, so when I started reading tarot it was around 2006. So it's only been about 15 years. And so there were probably more decks available then than say when you guys started. It sounds like Gerald got his deck actually when it was coming out in 1991 or around there. So
it was close to that. Yes. Yeah. So go ahead and get it, Amy.
Oh my gosh.
Did we lose her sound?
Pressure now.
Oh gosh.
No pressure at all. So I didn't actually pick it up, because I was looking I think it was in Barnes and Nobles when I began getting introduced to tarot, and I was looking for a deck. And I've told this story before, but the deck I purchased ended up being a pip deck. So then I went back to Phoenix and the Dragon, which is an Atlanta store, a big metaphysical store, and got the blue box RWS, which I'm using in the 78 cards in 78 weeks. That's the one I pulled from that I've written little notes on and everything that I studied nonstop when I first started studying tarot. And so every time I looked at the Robin Wood, I was like, well, it's so similar to the RWS. And so why do I need another deck that's pretty much the same, right? Which was my initial thought. One of the things that interested me was like, okay, well, she did this in 1991. And I know that from reading the book that some of it was she wanted to see more pagan influence in it than the Christian influence that was there. That's something that I'll talk about a little bit in a minute that bugs me a little bit in the deck. But but then I read in her little white book this comment, which totally confused me. And she said, or at least it says that Robin combined traditional tarot card designs and symbolism with a more current and natural symbolism. I'm not sure I get the whole idea of current. I mean, it looks like the same like time frame, right? Just in different artwork.
Well, but I think, and Amy has said this before. Think about the time period when this came out. You had the RWS, you had the Thoth, and you maybe had a few others. So Robin, what she was doing is she was giving us clear images and allowing some other symbols to come through rather than it being stuck. The fact that the wands are crystals and not wood was a thing. And so it's yes, it does remind people of Ren fairs and that, but in 91 this was a cool deal.
And that's probably the
Can you hear
first
me?
difference.
Yes.
You can hear me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay. Oh, thank goodness.
You're
Yeah,
welcome.
it's just so much prettier and so much, the pictures, even just the quality is so much clearer than the RWS with the, I don't love the artwork on the RWS, and it just doesn't make me go, ooh, pretty, I want to look at it. And the Robin Wood really does.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it definitely is clearer, and I like that about it. I also liked some of what she did, bringing in more pagan influence. Like, I almost bought it the first time I saw The Magician because I just loved this card.
Mm-hmm.
It really speaks to me and my background in a lot of ways. And I love what she did with the High Priestess as well. I mean, I thought that was gorgeous. That's actually an idea that I probably picked out from seeing this image online for my own High Priestess, was the
Yes.
trees and light and shadow. And you know, I saw it in her Judgment card, which a lot of people do, the whole Phoenix kind of awakening symbology, moving away from the kind of Judgment Day imagery we get with the RWS. But then she didn't even bother to change the Hierophant, and so I'm reading in her book, and so basically now this card is pretty much the negative side of the card, right? It's not it's all about oppression from the hierarchy, right? Instead of about, because it's in a more pagan deck, then it is about a teacher, right? And someone who actually has knowledge to pass down to us.
I will say that this Hierophant is, of course, one of the earliest ones I worked with. And it, you know, I'm a recovering Catholic schoolgirl. And so it took me a really, really long time to get past that image.
Mm-hmm.
And I think
But
that's
I'm
kind
glad
of
I
was.
did. I'm glad I worked with it.
Yeah. I think that was kind of her point. I mean, she did say in the chapter 1, not the preface, which to me chapter 1 is really the preface, but she did this cute thing with the preface, right?
Isn't that great?
Yeah,
The forward.
All right, you win. Here's your book. Here's your book. But she says, the only things in this book that I will tell you without any room for disagreement are absolutely true are the things about me, where I was, what I was doing, and my reason behind things. I know these things, and that's that, but those are only things I do know with certainty. And so some of the things that come across in here, much more so for me in this deck than I notice in other decks usually, is you know, how they have changed up the cards to what they have seen with their intuition and readings over the years, right? And so, oh, hush. And so and I know I've seen that in other decks as well. Like they'll focus on a specific aspect of the card, and so sometimes that can throw me, right? Because I'm the kind of person who wants to study the history and the what it originally meant, and then move forward to expanding that. And so sometimes it catches me off guard when I see things like the one thing that she did that kind of freaked me out was in the Four of Swords is that she actually made this, the person is actually part of the tombstone or the crypt. It's not a person laying at resting in the crypt, so to speak.
Yes.
This is actually a grave versus someone taking time out from the war in a crypt or something.
But remember, this was 1991.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and you were probably, were you like 20?
Ish.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I'm the older of all three of us. So respect your elders.
Oh, goodness.
I
Yes.
do love her guidebook though, because it's the guidebook you want the creator to write. She says every color, every reason the person looks like that, the reason they're wearing that. She explains everything in her train of thought and why she included it. And this is like, yes. Now I will tell you something funny about this guidebook. So I got the deck probably, I would say 97, give or take a year. And this guidebook came out in 98. And back then, I wasn't even someone told me 78 Degrees of Wisdom, and so that's the book I had. I did not get this guidebook until last year when Gerald said, "Did you have the guidebook?" And I was like, "Wait, what? There's a guidebook?"
What?
I never thought to look for it. I don't know what I was thinking, but now I have it.
The guidebook actually came out. It came out 7 years after the deck, and so you probably wouldn't have even thought to look for it. But I will say that that's probably why I'm kind of, this deck is growing on me, is that I'm reading her thoughts. Even if I disagree with her thoughts, I know what she was thinking. Whereas I have some decks that the little white book is so thin on information that I don't get why they do certain things, and it still bugs me. Like the Sorcerer of Beto has some of those cards where I'm like, what's going on here? And all that's in the little white book is just keywords. So it's really great when you have this, a book like this that explains, here's why I did this. Here's what all of these things are that I did in the book.
And if I remember correctly, the little white book that comes with it was also written by Robin Wood. So there is still a bit of the Robin Wood flavor to it. It's not the copy and paste by, is it US Games?
Right.
Who did this?
Yeah, it says copyright Robin Wood and Michael Short. So, yeah.
Who was her husband?
So she definitely had input into it. I have noticed US Games has started having modern tarot readers write books, or at least Liv Scarabeo Llewellyn has. Like Sasha Graham has written a lot of the little white books for some of their newer decks. But I have 3 cards here that are actually among my favorite. And so there are cards in here that I love, like the Magician that I mentioned. One is the Queen of Swords. This is probably the only Queen of Swords I have ever related to, even though this is my card in the tarot. I'm a Libra, and so this is supposed to be me. And I just love this image. I don't know. There's something about it that it's more appealing to me than other images that I've seen. They all look so harsh and stern, and there's none of the beauty that you expect with the Libra, right?
Yes. And she is extremely confident and glorious. And this is where I think Robin Wood did such a nice job. The clothing supplements the action and the meaning of that card. Because, I mean, when you look at that, I mean, come on. I know all 3 of us want a cape like that. I mean, that, if you did that, you know, that's amazing. But yeah, I think that's where where Robin really exceeded. It's like, okay, here you go. So,
I think she caught the essence of the Queen of Swords, because a lot of people consider it to be the biatch card, but
mm-hmm.
this card is just someone who is strong in a way that, you know, you wouldn't want to cross her, but it's not that she's not gentle and caring. She
Yes.
just is, she's got it together.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The another card that I really love is the Lovers, and the thing that really caught my eye was the Sun and Moon that she added. But I like that she has that kind of light star at the top. I haven't read her entry for the card specifically, but
nudity alert.
Yeah. Now, Maria, Lady Knight, she drew, I think, fig leaves on hers because she was not digging looking at the peepees and wee-wees. I don't even see them anymore. I've seen this card so often, but it is kind of out there.
And like you said, Rosemary, I noticed the sun and the moon, and this was the first deck that actually had the sun and the moon on it, and how they went together. Oh gosh, what has happened?
I'm laughing at Maria. She says, I dressed my lovers. His love is too much for me.
Speak for yourself, honey.
Yeah. This kind of nudity does not bother me, and I'm used to
it's
it
just
in
distracting.
the Lovers card, right?
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't even distract me, but then I'm a person who's more like, I have a whole channel about sex, so we'll talk about that at another time. But yeah, I just love the concepts that I saw in this card that you don't usually see: the sun, the moon.
Yes,
and then
it's a nice balance.
I loved the Eight of Wands, because the whole idea of, you know, I guess asteroids or wands flying through space versus just wands flying through the air was kind of cool. I really like it. I thought it was a pretty image.
There's lots of movement in that card.
Yeah.
And it's rapid movement, and you can see that. This and the Eight of Wands from the Zany Tarot are probably my two favorite Eight of Wands cards. So, but yeah.
All right. So what are some of your favorite cards?
I have a whole pile.
Cool. Check.
And the Lovers was in my I have three, like, the cards I don't really love. Oh, what happened?
Mm-hmm. She may be dealing with her dogs.
Loved, and then there were two, like, cards that were scandalous, and the Lovers was one of those.
Oh,
there's lots of divided opinions about that. The other one was the Ace of Wands, which my friend and I refer to as the fire penis.
And it is referred to as the glowing penis card, which, there you go. Alrighty.
But it is that, you know, energy and creation, and
yes,
it's appropriate.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So, I am a huge fan of the Two of Pentacles. This is my favorite card in the tarot deck, and I love this image. It's an amazing image for me. It means a lot to me.
Okay, this is one of the cards in my what is going on here pile, because I feel like her deck. You start looking at it, and it's like, okay, this is pretty traditional imagery. It's pretty everyday life in a different time, right? But then all of a sudden, you start getting like fantasy things going on.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like a little bit of a surprise. And I'm like, that's why I kept reading in the Little White Book and her guidebook to see what her focus was when she created it, because I couldn't decide if this was just supposed to be a recreation with more pagan themes, or if this was supposed to be a fantasy deck, or, you know, what that might be. So
I I think I don't remember exactly what's in the book. I do feel it's the sometimes when we're walking on a tightrope, and the ships in the air have a particular meaning, and we don't know if this person is actually in the clouds or if they're like 2 feet above the ground. So there's some, and that's what it can feel like when I'm trying to deal with the Two of Pentacles. So
Sure, sure. Absolutely. So that was one of the things that kind of threw me, but I really can't say anything because she has this card, which was
mhm.
another one that went kind of fantasy, right? The Knight of Cups. And when I saw it, I was like, okay, who am I to talk? Because I put a unicorn in this card when I did mine. So,
Yes.
but I intentionally made it a shadow, so it was his imagination, right?
I like a lot of her court cards.
Yes.
The Knight of Swords is one of my favorites because it's again so much movement.
All of her knights are really dynamic, and including the Knight of Pentacles has their dynamism about it in the appropriate manner. So yeah, and I love, Amy, how we see the lightning coming from the sword, and it's like,
Mm-hmm.
it's those small details that I'm like going, oh yeah, you got it.
Um, Hudson Valley Tarot, we mentioned the Six and the Two of Swords. And yeah, I do love the Six of Swords. I think that's a beautiful depiction. I like that
It
it's
is.
a fun boat that ride that we're taking to more pleasant waters than, say, just a kind of service boat. And I also like that there's kind of this thing going on where you're being accompanied by a spirit.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
This was in my favorite pile because this is the only deck that I have where the person propelling the boat is kind of this spirit figure. And
Mm-hmm.
so there's this, guardian angel kind of feeling when I look at this card. And that's whenever I see any Six of Swords, it's like I'm just going to read it like the Robin Hood card because that is the Six of Swords that I prefer.
Yes, and I love how we have this little light in that cave. And
Mm-hmm.
is it a pearl? Is it a light? What is it? So we have to get to the other side to find it.
Well, and the RWS version actually has a person there, and so the idea being that there is someone taking you, right? You're not on your own. And some other decks have done a similar thing where it's a spirit basically that's taking you to new places. So that's the Two of Swords. I thought it looked very much like most other Two of Swords, just different artwork. But maybe I'm not seeing something. But it is a beautiful woman.
It's a beautiful, beautiful indigo color.
Yeah, yeah. And it's a great color too. Yeah. It is gorgeous, gorgeous. So what were some of your other favorites? You said you had a huge pile.
Well, there are some favorites because for personal reasons. I have lots of cards in this deck that I associate with people in my real life. This is my friend Tracy, the Queen of Wands, because she's just so cosmo and worldly and gets things done. And the Magician is the spitting image of a professor that I had when I was studying linguistics and my undergrad years. And he was the magician exactly. He knew so much, but he was kind of arrogant. And so I just had this understanding of that card. And I remember his name and everything. But and then I have these two cards, the Six of Wands and the Sun card. Because the Six of Wands is, my son calls this, well, he's not little anymore, but he would just absolutely be mortified if he knew I was talking about him on a YouTube video. But because everything I do is embarrassing now. But
Yes.
the Six of Wands is his poop in the potty card because it was a hard fought battle, but alas, we were victorious. And then the Sun card is the card that I pulled during a reading that I did when I was pregnant with him. And I pulled this card and I just knew I was going to have a boy. I just knew it. And no one believed me, but I knew it and I was right. As usual, as per usual, I was right.
Of course Amy's right, people. Sheesh. Yeah.
I had to pull the Knight of Swords out and look at it because people in the chat were talking about it when you showed it. So yeah, it does look like a Valkyrie, doesn't it?
It does.
Mm. Yeah. I love the Three of Pentacles. And I'm also a fan of the Eight of Pentacles. This is I appreciate how we actually see action in both of these cards. They're actually doing something, where it does say apprentice to me, and this one does say mastery to me, because this is the master who's actually working at it. And look at his face. He is enjoying the work that he's doing. And I find that really satisfying. So
you bring up an interesting point about the master and the apprentice, and we will talk about that. Well, at least I will on Sunday, unless someone wants to join me to chat about it when we talk about the Three of Pentacles in 78 cards in 78 weeks. But yeah, this is actually one of the cards that is not in my deck because it's downstairs for me to post tomorrow on Instagram. So, but I will chat some more about that card. Yeah. So tell me, what are your thoughts on her wheel and her
that was in my dislike pile.
Okay.
It's I feel like this person, huh?
I just in shock. You dislike a card in the Robin Wood?
I do. I have a couple that kind of I think are stinky. I just think this woman looks too modern. She looks out of place to me in this deck.
And I think she mentions in the book that this was about someone she knew. So they probably would have been a contemporary that, that had talked about them going through various emotional states, right? Which is kind of how she went with the wheel, was various emotional states that we go through as we cycle through events and life, etc. It's not really one of my favorites, but I wanted to kind of get your feedback and thoughts on it because I thought it was an odd one for me.
Yeah, I don't like. I mean, it is kind of. It has the little roulette ball, so it's anything could happen, and it's stuff happens kind of a feeling, and there is this lack of control in this card. I just don't like that it went with emotions.
And I actually like that it went with the emotions. I like that it went with the emotions, because a lot of times it's the emotions that, when we don't control those, it makes natural events in life worse. So I think it feels that way. And I am okay being the only person who's good with the Wheel of Fortune. So
I do like that it's colorful. I do like the colors, though.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we're having fun in there, aren't we? All right. So
the Ladybug, yes.
I have like a few cards here, and then we'll get back to some of the ones that you like. But I feel like the figures are odd. Like something, their bodies seem weird to me. Like the angel and the temperance card. There's something, I don't know. Maybe it's the way the clothes are drawn on him, but it looks like his body is oddly shaped to me.
I hope that's his knee.
I would assume so. Yeah, he's stepping up the water there.
I
But
think
yeah,
his
I think
head
it's because
is
it's
maybe
so
slightly.
straight. It makes it look like he has no torso to me on the one side.
Yeah.
But it's a very traditional image. It's pretty otherwise. It kind of caught me by surprise when I first saw it. It seemed kind of
You
stiff.
can't unsee it now, can you? I love these.
Robin Wood.
Oh no. I what I really like is I like how in Temperance they're the balls that are being juggled and not necessarily what we might typically see. And this is clearly an angel. This is an announcing angel, probably Gabriel. And it's just like, there you go, but you still have that in the water and on the earth. So
That's another thing that's a little odd for me is when you see angels in decks that say that are supposed to be more pagan than the traditional imagery. So these were some others that I don't know, for some reason the bodies just looked a little bit weird to me, but the Fool, which is a beautiful card. I love the little butterflies. I had to put the butterfly in mine, but for some reason, maybe it's, I don't know, maybe it's the way the pattern fits on them or something that I don't know. The legs just look odd to me, but it's pretty. It's very pretty.
It's very jestery.
Yeah, I'm not always a fan of the jester idea. It leans to me a little bit more into the folly than, I guess, because I like to study tarot esoterically. I like to see more of the initiate energy, like the beginning of a quest, a journey, than the actual folly part in my Fool cards.
Well, he does look like he's starting out, you know.
Right. Yeah, the Fool always does.
Or she.
Part of the road trip where you're still excited to be on the road and you're still excited to be around, you know, the other people in the car. And then after a few hours, it's not that exciting anymore. Now, Robin
Don't make me pull this car over.
She does call this a man and not an angel, and she talks about the wings for her symbolizing freedom. She said, I started by giving this fellow wings. For me, they're a potent sign of freedom, skillfulness, and mastery.
Okay.
So she says it's not an angel.
Yeah, I recall reading that now when I did read that bit about that particular card. Okay, so I'm going to skip this one. The more I look at it, the more I'm like, well, maybe she actually got that one drawn right.
Well, but now you have to tell us, Rosemary. You just can't.
Well, there's something that looked odd about the Hangman to me. But maybe it's that I think what it is everywhere that the clothing is white in this deck, it has a kind of, I guess it makes it flatter than you would anticipate it being. That there's not a good
upside down
fabric and that kind of stuff. So maybe that's all that there is to it.
Well, and if you actually look at it this way, it does actually look like the clothes are actually hanging weirdly. So yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Yep. Yeah.
But you at one time, Rosemary, were looking for a hanged man that was not tied.
Right.
Right. Yeah. And she actually says in the book, doesn't she, Amy, that we don't know if his hands are tied. And she did that on purpose.
But his legs are not trying to.
So it kind of harkens to that idea that we're making the choice to sacrifice for a new perspective. Which so, and then this was the last one that looks, I don't know why, but the lady in the star card, her body seems weird to me. And I don't know what it is.
I think, you know what's weird for me in this? The way she's holding the bowls. They're like, can you actually hold bowls like that?
Yeah, no. The bowls
if I drop them.
Yeah.
If I drop them on the floor, yes, for 2 seconds maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
Okay.
current decks.
Yeah, so Apatia Rising was talking about the Fool's Pants, and so that she sees them in a lot of current decks. And I think that Harlequin pattern is a pattern that appears in older decks as well, which may be
Mm-hmm.
where she pulled it from, because older Fool images have that same kind of pattern in some of them too.
But you know, Robin Wood explains those patterns in detail in the book.
Right. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
So, Gerald, do you have some favorite cards?
I have 3 majors pulled out, and it's
Okay.
not going to surprise anyone. The Hermit. I love this card.
Yeah.
This is an amazing Hermit card, and there was a place where you could get artwork. Artists could put it up, and you could buy a print of it. And I don't remember what it is, but I actually left a comment. Robin had the Magician, and I said, "Gee, if the Hermit was there, I would buy that." And she went, "Okay," and she actually put the Hermit up there. So I have a print of this card that I can actually hang up. I adore her death card. Every death card that I come into contact with is compared to the Robin Wood. So it's like, I mean, the fact that we have this big flag, the white rose, we have the butterfly. We don't see the face, we see the gesture. It's really, really amazing for me. And I like it's happening during the day. It's not this under the cloak of darkness. So
Yeah, I could do
There's a
without the horse on
butterfly. Oh, there's a butterfly.
yes. Uh-huh.
So when I first saw this image, the thing that immediately struck me was, of course, that she chose to use the white rose, which is actually something that was added to the death card via, the Golden Dawn. And yeah, but she does reframe it in her book, the meaning that she has for the white rose, which is basically
Mhm.
the same in a way to the Golden Dawn. But
Yes.
I kind of miss a little bit of the death in this card, though. It's it seems like a very pretty card. I mean, other than the idea that this being is cloaked, I don't really get death from it.
It for me is a much more it suggests transformation rather than death. Where when you see the skull, and it feels much more, it feels less empowering. So yeah, I think that's really pretty.
And I love how everything around the death figure is green and growing and lush.
Mm-hmm.
I do believe she goes into why she chose the trees that she did in the card.
Birch tree, beginnings, purity, cleansing.
Yeah.
Because chapter 5 is a list of common symbols. Please note, she goes on for several pages. Boys and girls and everyone, look at this. So, and I have that tabbed, because when I'm looking at decks, I'm like going, what is that one? What is that? What's that mean? So
obviously, this is a deck that I need to dive into more deeply to study all of those. I actually had that one out to ask your opinion about. So tell me about the
This
death
was in my
card.
favorite pile.
my favorites too. I am
So
just
a devil with no angel.
Yes. And I love the fact that this tells us that a lot of times we are our own devil. We are not united. We're fighting against ourselves. And it's a very, very dynamic card. And Rosemary, this was the image that I thought of for yours. Was it the one with the pentacle on the back of the
Right.
jacket?
Yes. I looked at this just now and thought, okay, have I stolen her idea for my shadow?
No.
But yeah, so we did a similar thing, and Gerald actually helped me with that particular card, which I called the shadow. And the person is actually in chains, and the chains are shaped like the pentacle on them, hanging on them, and basically they're holding themselves back, right? They're bondage. They're in bondage because of their own self and their own thoughts, and not an external force, so to speak.
And what's interesting
Well,
is they're not, yeah, all of the detail, but they're not in bondage. They're just holding on to the chest. There are no chains around them at all.
Yeah.
So this is one of those psychological things.
They're letting their greed hold. She talks about about this card being greed, and they're letting their greed hold them back. You know, they could easily get to the exit. They're not chained up. They're just not wanting to let go.
Yeah. I think you and I talked about this, Amy. Yeah.
What she put on the chest, the monkey trap story, about how the monkey just has to let go of the fruit, and it would be able to get out of the trap, but it won't let go of the fruit, and so it stays trapped. And she put a carving of that on the chest.
Yes. Love
and
that.
She always reminded me, back in the 90s, I was like a huge Motley Crue fan. You know, I listened to all the 80s hair bands, and she just reminded me of like a music video, some chick who would be in, you know, a rap video or something.
Oh.
This is a card which at first the face kind of disturbed me, and then I read her book, and it totally makes sense why she drew it this way, but I really don't like that interpretation of this card. I mean, basically she says nana boo boo, you know, basically I won, you lost, get over it kind of thing going on here. He's making fun of them, so to speak, and it really disturbed me when I first saw him. You know, reading her guidebook, it makes more sense because she does associate it with the conventional meanings, you know, of that we have for it. You know, failure in some cases. For me, it's more about, okay, what was the cost of winning or losing, and who was the winner and loser? Because traditionally, everyone looked like they were upset at the end of that battle in the card. Whereas here, it's more focused on, haha, I won. You know, so what are your thoughts about that card?
Well, it says this card means failure caused by trickery, deceit, denigration, or degradation, winning by unfair means. So it's that we're doing this in a not good way. Go ahead. What were you saying, Amy?
I said that kid always in the card always kind of, ew, like he just wasn't cute, you know. The way she drew him, it was like a bratty kid, you know, and it was it kind of turned me off. But that I guess is the feeling of the card.
Yeah.
And Beth says this is Tawny Katane. Yes, total White Snake video.
So, Amy,
I have
did you
another
have
5.
Okay, share some of them with us.
The 5 of Wands is always been one of my favorite, because I had this aha moment where this person, it all looks like the same person. Like it could be a battle.
And that was one of the things that caught me by surprise as I went through her deck was, and this card actually kind of demonstrates it in a way, but does she like prefer blondes? I mean, it just seems like and I actually counted, there are like half the deck has blondes in it, but blonde men.
And there are a couple of like the High Priestess or the 2 of Swords that have, you know, a couple of brunettes thrown in there.
Yeah.
What I really love about this card is that if they stop struggling, then the wands would make a pentacle. would be this perfect
Yes.
balance.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they
Yes.
just can't do it.
And this was the card, Amy, for me, where it was, this is about an exchange of energy and not necessarily a battle. And for me, that exchange of energy can be a very powerful and important thing rather than just it being a conflict. It can be a challenge, but it's like a dance. So very interesting.
Gerald, do you have any others?
Oh my goodness, there are so many good ones. I think I actually I like the Ten of Pentacles because I like the capturing. This really, to me, is that cross-generational feeling. So I like that. So yeah, it's like, this is, which is your favorite child?
Well, now, Amy, why don't you share another one? We'll go back and forth since I only have one more card I want to talk about.
Okay, well, I have a couple that I like and a couple that I'm not sure about.
Okay.
Ooh.
And one that I don't love is the Four of Pentacles, because I think this is real. She kind of went dark with this one, where it's about greed and
She did.
you know, being very blocked and, you know, leaving
miser.
everyone out. Yeah, miser. And I see the Four usually as a little more boundaries and not really being trapped by your greed necessarily.
Yes.
I think you still get that kind of miser impression from many decks that use that kind of Smith-Waite imagery, you know, of standing on two coins and holding a coin and that type of thing. I mean, you still get it to a degree, but I think she really went there with the person's facial expressions and stuff.
Yeah, his face is just not happy.
Yeah.
Me when I see my paycheck.
Is he greenish? So does he look sick to you? Is he greenish? Let's see.
He looks pale and a little gaunt.
Yeah.
He's like a little.
He hasn't seen sun. He hasn't been outside since, you know, back in, you know, picture it, 1942, Sicily. So probably got that wrong. Oh my gosh.
Ebenezer Scrooge, who's, you know, doesn't get any sun because he's too busy counting his money. But the Ace of Pentacles is gorgeous.
I love these aces. I think her aces are phenomenal.
There's another one.
Here's another one.
They're very rich feeling.
Yes.
And then we have, of course, the wand, the Ace of Wands.
Yeah. Oh, and then the Ace of Cups. It's just really pretty. And what's interesting, I think this was the card for me in reading her book. She talks about, you know, following your intuition, and because this is, I will still use this deck and I will see things that I haven't noticed before, or they really become important. And sometimes this looks like it's covered in ice and not that the water is flowing. And that's she encourages that interpretation as well. It's just like, follow what you like.
It looks kind of frothy to me.
Yes. Now I want a beer.
I've been
one
craving,
other one I'm not.
Yep.
What, Rosemary?
Oh, I've been craving sangria.
Yeah.
Now that's a beautiful card. I did love that depiction of this.
His hat just says Indiana Jones, and it bothers me every time.
I'd probably buy him a drink because he's not going to move from there. It's the seven of Pentacles. He's not leaving that garden. So he'd probably hey Rosemary, he's looking at you. He'd have some sangria with you if you want. He's like, "You doing? How you doing?"
Maria says Inspector Gadget. Yeah.
Hot and needs a cold drink. Oh, Inspector Gadget.
Mm. I am always, when I look at a card, when I look at a deck, I look at the 9 of Swords and the 10 of Swords. And these cards, they're so powerful. This is the Nightmares card, and it's like, holy crap. I mean, the figure is so expressive. You don't see the face, but the body language is such. And that it's like, ooh, it really is over. The worst is done. And I think is it in this, is her definition of that one, no, it really is that bad? No, it really is that bad. Yes.
Yeah.
Because she has little keys, and it's like, no, it really is that bad. And I'm like, okay. So
her phrase for the 9 is night terrors, which oddly enough, I never really, I'd always associated this with bad dreams, but I'd never had night terrors until 2020. And
gosh.
So that's now I kind of understand that card better than ever.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Pretty shocking.
I do love that 10 though, because it more so than normally in decks, it shows that sun rising in the background.
Yes.
Which is, I think, an important aspect. And some decks actually move so much towards that they overlook the actual defeat.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
It's just the card. Glowing space in the middle of the card makes it. Maybe it will be okay eventually, but right now, put a fork in me, I'm done.
Yes. Yes.
This is another guy that I really love. The King of Swords. My Severus Snape card.
Mm-hmm.
Who does things out of obligation and responsibility and yeah. I love this king.
I agree with you, Amy. It is a great king, and again, great costume on this. It's like, holy mackerel.
Yeah, the costumes are very vibrant in the court cards, and they're all connected in some way. And yeah, so rather than having thrones with different objects and stuff on them, they're actually on the fabric, which kind of makes a little more sense. We usually wear patterns on our clothes, at least today. So
yeah. Are any of the court cards on thrones? Well, I mean, some of them are sitting, like the King of Pentacles, the Queen of Pentacles, but
yeah, I think only the Emperor actually has a throne that's visible.
Yeah, the King and Queen of Cups are sitting, but it's not really a throne.
Right. You can't really see. Yeah.
And yeah. I mean, and this is one of those things that when I was reading tarot, and I still do this, I lay out the suit, and then I look at each suit to see how the story of the suit goes, and then I really look at the court cards to see, do they relate to each other? And all of her court cards, you can tell that those are pentacles. There's no question about it. And I do have to say, I really like her pages. Her pages are quite dynamic, very youthful, and definitely encapsulate the meaning.
Yeah,
It's
I
like, come
probably
on.
I do really like the Page of Wands more than I do in the RWS. I've always thought that card just didn't speak to that. Um, that image didn't speak to that card at all in the RWS.
Mm-hmm. Is this starting to? How are you feeling about this, Rosemary? How are we doing?
So, I think that I just need to study the deck more. I think what put me off of it initially was, I approached tarot in 2006 when more diversity started appearing in decks.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time I've looked at it, I'm like, well, it doesn't really add to my collection because it's not diverse. It resembles the RWS very closely in many cases, but the images are beautiful. And now looking at the book and listening to you talk about it, I feel like it's one I need to spend time with studying the symbols and whatnot. I think I can learn from it, and that's why I did get it. And I've been using it with my 78 cards in 78 weeks project. And so reading about those cards in here and learning about what she had to say about it. And so that's been helpful in expanding my understanding of not just her deck, but the tarot in general.
Mm-hmm.
And that leads me to the last card that I wanted to talk about, which really bugs me in her deck. Not just
Ooh.
because I find his face irritating, but because of her description of this card. And that is the Chariot. This dude
His
with the
face does
heart.
bug me. Yeah.
His heart, yeah. And then I'm like, why is he holding a freaking heart? And so I picked the book up to read about it, and her key for it is balance and harmony. I'm like, that is totally not it the way I would ever perceive the Chariot card, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. Um, and so that really kind of threw me. But what's odd is that most of the time when I look at the image and it hits me as a little weird, and her key hits me as a little weird. When I start reading what she has to say about the card, I'm like, well, she's saying the same thing I would say about the card. It's just the way she's chosen to depict it, and the
Yes.
key she's given it seems odd. Um, but yeah, she calls this harmony, balance, triumph, which triumph is something that is associated with this card. But I don't know about the harmony and the balance. I mean, to me, it seems more like a justice or a temperance idea.
Yeah, harmony is more sixes and not a 7 card. It
Mhm.
does have unicorns, Rosemary. Does that sway you?
I'm sorry, say that again.
It does
They're
have
unicorns.
unicorns.
Yeah, the unicorns are interesting. I just can't get over the dude with the harp. I mean, what, I guess I know he's supposed to be playing the harp to guide the unicorns, I think, or to express his joy and happiness, I guess. So because the victory is a little bit of an aspect of this, but to me, it's always a card more about control, and I guess that's there when you think about him, the harp, the sounds of the harp controlling the unicorns. Um, and yeah, so that's basically what conclusion I've come to is what Apatia Rising says, and it's a deceptively deep deck.
It is.
So you
Mm-hmm.
look at it and you think, well, it looks like a Smith Waite clone, so to speak, with a little bit of pagan stuff thrown in. But then you start looking at it and you're like, what the heck is that doing in there? I mean, why is a harp in the Chariot? And then you read the book and you're like, okay, I
It's
guess that
close
works.
enough to the Smith Waite that you can read it
Yeah.
relatively easily when you first get it, but it's far enough away that, like Gerald said, you notice something different every time.
Mm-hmm.
Something else pops out at you that you didn't notice before.
Right.
Yes.
Absolutely.
And I would
So,
also say the great thing about the book is she goes into tarot and then doing beginning reading, tarot ethics. So this was extremely important to her, and then spreads and those types of information. So it just is it's really nice. And by the way, before I know you're trying to end, but I know the person who modeled for this, and she was a lovely person who was an energy worker. So the model was female.
Okay.
So just saying. I mean, and she does say in the book, the man, but I'm like going, I got to exchange energy with this person.
Yeah.
Okay.
She
I get
also
excited
talks about the rules for playing Tarochi, which I was excited about.
Oh yeah, I want to read that. I think she's got one of the best history of tarot chapters that I've seen. It's 2 sentences, and but then she does go on into the theories of tarot history, and so I thought that was really great. She also actually has a chapter on the history of her own deck, and so it tells you more about how she came to the card. And it's similar to how I came around to my deck, right? I mean, I was studying the tarot and reading books by other people, and there were things that I saw in my reading or in my understanding that I'd like to be different in the cards, or that I'd like to see more of in the cards. And so I, started the project to do that. So speaking of projects, before we head out, I do want to ask Amy, is there anything that you want to share with people coming up for your channel, or
I'm assuming that it's going to be a bunch of exciting stuff. I am on vacation. Maybe I'll be inspired. Maybe some tarot by the pool. Who knows? Who knows? I don't like to make too many plans over the summer.
It's your summer. Yes.
My summer.
There we go. Like and subscribe. And here is, I believe this is her link for her channel, for those of you out there. And also we have Tarot Stash here. Tarot Stash, what's coming up for you that you'd like people to know about?
Next Tuesday, I'm doing oracle readings with Tangi Roman Biscotti. That will be fun. This is, I believe, part 4 that we're doing. I am hosting Beneficial Tarot's birthday celebration on Saturday. That's at 9 p.m. Eastern. And I've just confirmed that I will have Orshi on my channel on Monday for an I'll Show You Mine. And we're talking about things that bring us joy.
Okay.
So
sounds wonderful. Now,
if anyone on Maria's channel I think Maria's channel maybe to discuss the fours in tarot. So be on the lookout.
Sounds good.
Yes.
Before we go, I don't normally draw cards on my channel, but how would you guys feel about shuffling the Robin Wood and each drawing one card?
Fabulous.
We'll build a spread together of 3 cards.
Ooh, nice.
And Maria says on the 18th, they will be talking about the 4s on her channel.
And so, Rosemary, while I'm shuffling, if people want to be involved with you for the 78 cards in 78 weeks, how do they do that?
So if you want to join me in talking about any of the cards as I study them and present them on Sundays at 1 p.m. over here on this channel, just reach out to me. You can put it in the comments on this video, or you can go to my Facebook page or my Facebook group and message me. You can go to Instagram. If you go to my link tree, you can actually find all kinds of ways to get in touch with me, and also see how you can support my work. Gerald's really good about the promotion thing. I always forget about it. I usually don't even remember to say like and subscribe at the end of my videos. So
yeah, Gerald, you had a fancy video thing that popped up, and I was like,
oh yeah.
He did a trailer for our presentation today.
I just discovered that I could do that, and I'm like, I love this. It's so much fun because I like coming on to channels like this, and I
Yes.
want to let people know. So I'm like, let's just make a video. It's like under a minute. So,
Yeah. And you know, I'm always excited to get invitations to be on other people's channels and chat about whatever. And also to have people on my channel for different discussions. In fact, the next deck that I'd like to do a What's So Great About is going to be the
Santa Muerte?
Santa Muerte. And
Is
so if anybody is in love with that deck and wants to join me to talk about it, let's do. I'll share some of my.
will we both be back? Will we be allowed?
So, yeah. So if nothing else, I'll be joined by these two again, since they convinced me to buy it during the Death Card episode a few weeks ago.
Well,
So,
and that's a deck that I would have more cards that I don't like in it.
Okay. So I'll start, since on my screen I'm on the left. So that'll be the first card. And I drew Temperance. So our card of balance and working with the elements, so to speak, and creating that equal energy, you know, in our life. And so, yeah. And what was your card? Oh, the Five of Cups.
And I don't know about you, but I'm sad it's over, this conversation. So I'll be sulking. However, I can watch the playback again. And I think it is actually, seriously, I think it's important that we, I always think about with this is we have to recognize what has been lost, but we also have to really work hard at seeing what remains. It's not ignoring what's been lost, but recognizing it and then focusing.
Yes. One of the things that in the Spirit Keepers Tarot that Benabel talked about is, you know, we pour out all this blood, sweat, and tears, and we fail to see the rewards that we've gained as a result.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're more focused on that bit that is disappointing, right? So,
Rosemary, don't focus on the things you don't like about the Robin Wood. Focus on those other two cups.
There you go. There you go. You know, take some
Amy for the. Oh yeah, I love that. I love that, Rosemary. You're giving her the finger. You're you know, yeah, whatever.
Oh, you're funny.
Well played, funny. Amy. I love that.
I have our third 5 of the reading.
All right.
And
oh my God.
This is us putting our heads together, you know, that exchange of energy, which turns us on to new ideas and new ways of seeing things. And I have loved this chat because I've seen new things in the deck just tonight.
Yeah.
Yes.
For me, that card is all about playing to learn, and you know, the idea that we do battle so that we can grow from it, and so I think that's completely appropriate today. You know,
absolutely,
as we put away those things that weren't serving us to embrace those things that are and reach some balance. So, I do thank you guys so much for being here tonight. It's been wonderful having you. And I look forward to doing it again at some time. But as always, until next time, good journeys, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.